Yeah, I wanted to ask you about. It sounds like the big project that you have going on right now is the Black Lives Matter protest consortium. Why don't you tell everybody about how that all got started?
So uh, over the summer or late spring, we had all this uh, stuff that we've had happen in the country, and none of this is new. I mean, these things have been going on for years, decades, extended. Um, but obviously with this year, and I think with COVID and everyone being inside, that I think it caused even more of a more dramatic uproar of these things and how enough is enough and we're tired of all of this. And um, for me, being in Atlanta at that time when all this was going down, I know that Atlanta had its share of some things and protests and some things that maybe were a little bit more than protests. Um, and I think just for me, it was it was such a surreal experience. I remember that among the things going on, um, going down to Atlanta. I remember, I think a couple of days after things really started to blow up to a head, that me and my mom, we went down to Atlanta just to drive through, because of course because COVID was still there, we didn't get out of the car or anything. We just drove through just to look, just to see what the environment was, just to see how things were, and just being moved by that atmosphere. And then a little bit later, I think a few friends of mine at Kennesaw State organized a protest, and I went and was a part of it. And just again, just seeing all of that and being there and experiencing it firsthand, and just I know for me in general in the past year, due to some um, various circumstances, I found myself becoming more and more aware of it, for better or worse, of what my background is and what my heritage is. And therefore I was just it was I was really inspired to do something about it. And I was already having ideas in my head, and then Jason Casanova, who you hear playing Stutter Step in the linked recording, we were actually putting things together for that video, and we were talking about stuff around that time in early June. And he happened to mention while we were on the phone one time, hey, um, uh, would you mind writing a piece about stuff like this? I'd really like to do something and collaborate. He wanted to collaborate with Bernard Blythe um, on doing something for Tuba and Euphonium, and something specifically in relation to the events that were going on at that time. And for me, I was like, absolutely, I'm 100% on board. At that time, of course, I wasn't really ready to start because I was still kind of feeling a lot of things at that time. And for me, especially throughout the month of June, writing music, or just throughout most of the summer, just writing music was tough for me, and just being able to be in a creative state, um, being locked down and all that we had going on. So finally I did start to develop some ideas and start sketching, and right now I'd say the piece is about halfway done, um, with still plenty of time coming soon. Um, but I'm really excited about this piece, and it's been such a experience just to work on it. Um, so to include some things about it. So I'm writing this piece for tuba and euphonium, and there's also going to be fixed media. And within the fixed media, I've included things such as speech quotes from the civil rights era, as well as in the modern day, from such activists back in the day as James Baldwin and some others, and but also in the modern day, and quotes from Tamika Mallory and whatnot. That especially when I was putting all that together, um, and as I've been working on that, that's been an experience where there was a lot of homework that I did, of listening to a whole bunch of speeches and going through and listening to a lot of different things that have been said over the past really 50 years or more. And I found myself listening to all that, and even still just getting in a mental space that leaves me speechless, of just all that has gone on and that continues to go on. So the piece will include some speeches and things from that, and there also will be some excerpts specifically of chants from those protests, because essentially my goal with the piece is to try to almost enact the emotion of the situation, all the emotions that you might feel of experiencing these injustices that have happened, but also the experiences of being at the protests, and kind of all those surreal emotions that I've kind of felt over the past year and months, wrapped into one. I've kind of broken up the piece. It's in multiple sections where they're based on chants. Again, the opening is a lot of the speeches and stuff, but the opening section of the piece, I call is No Justice, No Peace. And some of that, as far as the fixed media, will have some hip hop influences and is a little bit more current, to kind of juxtapose the piece opening with civil rights era speeches and things like that. And then kind of the middle section of the piece moves to what I call the I Can't Breathe section, that is a little bit more suppressive and just raw as far as the sound goes. And then moving to a section called Hands Up, Don't Shoot, that starts to play on this idea of desperation and also exasperation of where are we, what are we doing, and why is this still going on, and again kind of going through multiple different ideas of how, for me personally, how I felt in the past year of things going on. They say music can express what words cannot sometimes, and I feel like for me that this piece is that it's been hard for me at times to articulate how I felt. So this piece is kind of my message to that.
Wow, this sounds like a really incredible but also very ambitious project. There's a lot involved in it. I have so many questions. I want to start with that research part of the project must have been so inspiring. And I wonder if you had any, since you've listened to so many speeches, if you had any favorite speakers and maybe why they spoke to you.
I mentioned James Baldwin. I mean, listening to him particularly, I mean, his debate in 1965 is something that inspires me a lot. I think something else, there's an interview he does on TV that I forget the particular, the exact words are, but I guess he's asked this question relating to pessimism versus optimism. And I think it's one of the things that moves me the most. It's actually, the video comes from an ad for I Am Not Your Negro, which is a little documentary type of deal that's on Netflix right now. If you haven't watched it, I suggest it. But there's a point in there where he's asked about pessimism versus optimism, and he says, well, I have to be an optimist, because to be a pessimist is to admit that everything that happens to us as humans and in the world is an academic matter and is black or white. And I'm embellishing at this point, that is black or white, and it's just cut and dry. This is what it is, and things are not going to change. But to be an optimist means that you believe that things can change, and that you believe that things can get better, and that we have to, because if you don't believe that, if you don't believe in what the potential of humanity can be as far as it's good, then we're doomed. And that's kind of the mindset that he comes from. And I think that particular verbiage is kind of what's inspired me, I think, in the past couple of months, of just changing my mindset about the world and people and things that we go on, especially I think at that time, because a lot of this research was going on as we were preparing for the election and all these things that we know that the election was bringing out of people, and I think those are words that I personally really needed to hear uh, to help me get through things in general, not just the research, but just life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm just imagining you, in the composition process, trying to encapsulate all of these pretty difficult emotions, a lot of them, into music. And I wonder if being in that headspace is challenging and maybe a little heavy, or is it maybe even cathartic to be able to get it out somehow?
Honestly, it's all the above. But yeah, there's been some times where I've been in the process of writing this piece and just, not that it's a downer, but it's put me in a certain headspace where I feel like I'm otherworldly at that point. That just really taking a step back from what's happening, um, and but at the same time, it's also some of the most uplifting of my spirits that I'm in to listen to some of the things that I put in the beginning, um, and to hear some of that encouragement and it be inspiring. But it's certainly a range of emotions when I choose to, and that's the thing. Like for me, for this particular piece, like I have to specifically choose. All right, I'm working on this piece today. I need to make sure that I'm okay to start to be in this place, because it's wild sometimes.
Yeah, it must be intense. So it's a piece for tuba and euphonium and fixed media, and the fixed media is essentially like a video that the players would play along with.
The fixed media will be an audio track that the players will play along.
Audio.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's like actual audio of people speaking.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Bernard Flythe, because he is the co-host of the upcoming Rising Star series podcast version, which I'm excited to announce to everybody. Ben is our last guest for 2020, and we're going to spend the next few weeks working on the podcast version and launching that for you guys before we come back with more interviews in 2021. Sorry, I had to interrupt your stuff for a plug, but
No, it's fine.
But yeah, so like we have a link to the consortium page. When can people expect to see it and or hear your piece?
All right, so the consortium is open. Anybody can buy in and join and sign up on the page. We're looking at, obviously COVID has put a lot of things in the air, but we're hoping for a premiere sometime in May, making it around the 1-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd, is what we're looking at. So once that premiere happens, the piece will be open and available if you're in the consortium. I also wanted to add about it is that there's an incentive goal that if we reach the number of 25 at minimum, because as many people can get into it as they want, but if once we get to the minimum goal of 25, which I think we are close, I think we're getting around to about 20 people right now. But if we get above 25, a certain percentage of the commission money will be donated to the Equal Justice Initiative that serves for equal trials and things like that for people who are in prison or potentially wrongly imprisoned, and works for things like that.
Yeah, one of the most lauded institutions out there for as far as justice initiatives go. So great cause. Yes, please click through and contribute to the consortium if you can. But I think we'll all be looking forward to